Out of over 300,000 owners surveyed, even icons like the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid, long considered a safe bet, are suddenly facing exponential risks and spiraling costs thanks to lurking tech glitches and hidden powertrain failures. We've been sold the dream of bulletproof engineering by automakers, but the data reveals a chasm where 2025's most trusted badges can bankrupt owners with a single electrified breakdown or luxury system malfunction. If the vehicles you trust most can turn on you overnight, what does that say about the rest of the field? We're about to expose the worst offenders from 20 notorious cars, digging deep into why brand promises aren't protecting your hard-earned cash. Will your next purchase put you on the wrong side of the data divide? Consumer Reports doesn't just tally up complaints and call it a day. Their reliability rankings are built from the ground up, using the largest owner survey in the industry. Over 300,000 vehicles spanning 24 brands and every major powertrain. Every data point is weighted, and not all problems count the same. A failed engine or transmission can sink a model's score faster than a dozen squeaks or rattles. That's because major powertrain issues hit hardest, both in cost and in how quickly they can leave you stranded. Each vehicle is dissected across up to 20 trouble spots, from the basics like brakes and climate control to the modern headaches of infotainment freezes and battery management failures. For internal combustion vehicles, 17 categories are tracked. Hybrids add 2 more, and plug-in hybrids get a full 20, since every new system is another chance for something to go wrong. Electric vehicles are scored on 12 key areas that swap out engine and exhaust problems for electric motor glitches, battery faults, and charging system breakdowns. The scoring itself is ruthless. A model's predicted reliability is built from 3 years of data, 2022, 2023, and early 2025. So one good year can't wipe away a history of failures, and one bad batch can't drag down a brand unfairly. Each trouble area is weighted by severity. A blown head gasket or a dead high-voltage battery gets the heaviest penalty, while minor annoyances like loose trim or a malfunctioning cup holder barely move the needle. That's why a single powertrain recall can tank a model's score by 20 points or more, while a rash of cosmetic complaints might only cost a few. Brand scores aren't just an average, they're a reflection of how consistently a manufacturer delivers across its entire lineup. If a brand has one superstar and a stable of lemons, the overall score will reveal the gap. This is how stalwarts like Lexus and Toyota keep their crowns. They avoid risky redesigns, improve incrementally, and rarely roll out untested tech. Meanwhile, brands that gamble on new platforms or rush electrification often pay the price in reliability points. Plug-in hybrids and fully electric vehicles face the most scrutiny. Their scores are hammered by problems that traditional cars never had to face: charging port malfunctions, battery management errors, and software bugs that can brick the entire car. That's why plug-in hybrids show 70% more problems than gas-only vehicles, and electric vehicles still clock in with 42% more issues, even after recent improvements. The process is transparent but unforgiving. Every owner report is checked for trends. If 100 drivers mention the same transmission stutter or touchscreen failure, it gets flagged and weighted accordingly. Recalls and service campaigns are factored in, but a recall fix doesn't erase the reliability hit if owners already experience the problem. The result is a 1-to-100 score that doesn't care about marketing promises or badge prestige, just the raw odds that your money will buy a car that lasts. In the end, this isn't about isolated horror stories. It's about the math behind real-world risk. How often a car leaves its owner with a 4-figure repair bill, a tow truck, or a feature that never worked as advertised. That's the backbone of the list. A cold, hard look at which cars protect your wallet and which ones turn every drive into a gamble. Rivian lands at the bottom with a staggering 18 out of 100. That's not a typo. 18. Owners report more than 4 times the industry average in breakdowns, from failing HVAC systems to dead charging ports that leave a $90,000 truck stranded. At the other end, Lexus holds the line at 65, but even that's down 14 points from last year. The gap between best and worst has never been wider. The numbers reveal a sharp divide, not just between brands, but between continents. Asian manufacturers average 57 points, European brands trail at 48, and American companies limp behind with an average of 38. That's not a small difference. It's the difference between a car that gets you to work and one that leaves you calling for a tow. Plug-in hybrids and electric vehicles are supposed to be the future, but the data says otherwise. Plug-in hybrids now log 70% more problems than gas-only cars. Fully electric vehicles? 42% more issues, even after last year's so-called improvements. The problems aren't just with batteries and motors. Owners report headaches with software updates, charging system glitches, and infotainment failures that brick the entire dashboard. Even the so-called reliability leaders aren't immune. Lexus and Toyota have both slipped by double digits in the last 12 months. Meanwhile, brands betting big on electrification, like GM and Ford, are paying for it in the reliability scores. Cadillac drops to 27, GMC to 33, and Chevrolet to 37, all dragged down by tech that doesn't work as promised. This isn't a case of a few lemons. The numbers show a system-wide failure to deliver on the reliability that's been sold to American drivers for decades. Marketing departments keep pushing the dream of seamless tech and bulletproof engineering. The reality is a widening gulf between what's promised and what's delivered, with the risk and the repair bills falling squarely on the consumer. For anyone thinking the new wave of electric and hybrid tech means fewer headaches, the data says otherwise. 41 brands were measured, but the extremes tell the story. Some are still building cars you can trust. Others are rolling the dice with your money. The gap's never been more dangerous, and the consequences never more expensive. General Motors gambled everything on the promise of smart cars and lost control. The 2024 Chevrolet Blazer EV, hyped as the future of American engineering, collapsed to a humiliating 5 out of 100 in Consumer Reports reliability scoring. That's not a typo. 5. Edmunds' long-term test car racked up 23 unique system failures before hitting 2,000 miles. Window controls locked out, navigation trapped in endless reboot cycles. The climate system dead, then revived, then dead again. Communication between the battery, motor, and body control modules failed so often that the car spent more time at the dealer than on the road. GM's answer: a stop sale order. On December 22, 2023, every Blazer EV was frozen in place. No new deliveries, no exceptions. The fix? Months of software rewrites and a public price cut to lure back burned buyers. But the damage was done. Owners reported their new cars bricking overnight, with dashboard errors stacking up faster than dealer techs could clear them. The Blazer's reliability disaster wasn't a one-off. Cadillac's Lyriq, GM's flagship electric SUV, matched the same rock-bottom score, 5 out of 100. Owners described cascading electronic failures, battery alerts that left the vehicle immobilized, and safety systems that triggered emergency braking at highway speeds for no reason. Some Lyriqs cycled their 12-volt batteries until the entire car became a $60,000 paperweight, unable to lock doors or even roll down a window. Rivian, the once celebrated startup, fared no better. Their R1T and R1S models crashed to reliability scores of 20 and 9. Owners endured in-car displays freezing, navigation and HVAC systems blacking out, and repeated over-the-air updates that fixed nothing. Wait times for service stretched into months, with parts shortages and a thin service network leaving high-dollar trucks stranded for weeks. Panel gaps wide enough to slip in a finger, failed control arm bolts, and recall after recall, all while software updates tried and failed to patch the holes. Volvo's EX30, supposedly a Scandinavian answer to EV headaches, delivered a different flavor of digital pain. Owners reported the infamous road sign chime, 27 warning sounds in a single commute, 54 in a round trip. More serious, the center display would black out, wiping out the speedometer and access to basic controls. Steering wheel buttons failed, cruise control vanished, and the automatic emergency braking system triggered at random. Volvo's fix, a software update, required a dealer visit, despite promises of over-the-air repairs. Even after the patch, wireless CarPlay dropped out, Windows refused to work, and owners returned cars for full refunds. The numbers behind these failures are staggering. Plug-in hybrids now log 70% more problems than gas-only cars. EVs? 42% more. It's not just batteries and motors. Software bugs brick dashboards, charging systems collapse, and infotainment freezes lock out basic functions. GM's stop sale on the Blazer EV was a warning shot. When software fails, the whole car fails, and the bill lands in the consumer's lap. In this new era, a single code glitch can strand a $90,000 truck or turn a luxury SUV into dead weight. The promise of smart cars has become a minefield, where every new update is a roll of the dice with your hard-earned money. Tesla's promise of futuristic engineering collides with old-school build problems. The Model Y, despite its tech-heavy reputation, continues to roll out of Fremont with panel gaps wide enough to slip a finger through. During the 2020 production ramp, owner complaints flooded forums and service centers, misaligned doors, loose trim, fog lights sinking into bumpers. Even after a 30% drop in defect rates post-2023, Consumer Reports still rates the Model Y at 41 out of 100 for reliability. J.D. Power's latest study puts Tesla at 242 problems per 100 vehicles, nearly a third higher than the industry average. For early buyers, that meant rattling sun visors, wind noise from misfit glass, and creaks echoing from every corner of the cabin. These aren't just cosmetic flaws. Misaligned panels can disrupt the car's aerodynamics, amplify road noise, and in some cases, compromise weather sealing, sending water and dust straight into the interior. But the hardware headaches don't stop at the bodywork. Tesla's charging systems, praised for their speed, can grind to a crawl when a single thermal sensor fails. Gen 2 wall connectors are notorious for temperature sensor glitches, dropping charging rates from 48 amps to 24, or shutting off entirely with a red port warning. Owners report charging sessions that stall out randomly, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly, with the car blaming overheating even when the cable is cold to the touch. At superchargers, thermal throttling cuts peak power from 250 kilowatts down to 140, nearly doubling charge times. For road trippers, that's an hour lost at every stop. The culprit is often a faulty sensor buried deep in the charging hardware, misreading the current draw and forcing the system into limp mode. Fixing it isn't always simple. Sometimes it's a software patch, sometimes a full hardware swap. Either way, it's time and money out of the owner's pocket. BMW's iX, a luxury EV loaded with sensors, brings its own flavor of hardware pain. A minor fender bender can trigger a cascade of warnings: collision avoidance modules, radar sensors, and cameras, all demanding recalibration. Basic sensor replacement starts at $70, but the real cost comes with the required recalibration. Advanced driver assistance recalibration runs $300 to $500, with some procedures topping $1,000 when dynamic road testing is needed. Replace a windshield with its embedded camera, and the bill can hit $1,500. Insurance companies factor these costs into premiums, pushing BMW iX and Tesla Model Y rates 40% above the national average. Even minor repairs become major expenses when every panel and sensor is tied to the car's digital brain. These aren't isolated quirks. They're patterns that hit owners where it hurts. Tesla's own engineers have documented the high rate of manufacturing defects, rolling out software patches and hardware redesigns in response to waves of complaints. But every patch is a reminder that the basics still matter. A luxury badge or a high-tech badge doesn't shield you from the old sins of poor assembly and fragile sensors. In the new era of electric cars, the cost of chasing innovation is often paid in the simplest ways, with misaligned doors, failed charging sessions, and repair bills that keep climbing. The result is a new kind of reliability roulette, one where a single faulty sensor or a loose panel can turn a $60,000 car into a service center regular. Ford's F-150 Lightning recall swept up 29,501 trucks, all built between February 2024 and April 2025. The problem? A single ball joint nut on the front suspension, left untightened at the Rouge plant. That oversight means the upper control arm can break loose from the knuckle, taking steering with it. One owner's brand new Lightning collapsed at just 634 miles, the wheel folding under with no warning. Ford's engineering team traced the defect to inconsistent assembly torque, forcing a full stop sale and a nationwide inspection campaign. Every affected truck needs its front suspension checked and both nuts replaced, even if they pass the torque test. For families who put their trust and their savings into America's best-selling pickup, the risk isn't theoretical. It's the difference between making it home and calling for a tow on a 2-month-old truck. Dodge Durango owners face a different disaster. Transmission failures have become routine, not rare, across models from 2021 to 2024. Hard shifting, slipping gears, and sudden loss of drive haunt both the e-torque hybrids and the classic V8s. When the transmission goes, the repair bill can top $8,000, if you can even get the parts. Some owners have paid for a full rebuild, only to return days later with the same grinding and warning lights. The e-torque system piles on, with battery pack replacements running over $1,500 and starter generators another $1,300. For working families, one breakdown can wipe out a year's savings. Mazda's CX-90, a new entry in the 3-row SUV race, stumbled out of the gate with 3 separate recall campaigns in its first year. Software glitches in the dashboard electrical unit knocked out defrosters, seatbelt warnings, and 360-degree cameras. Powertrain control module errors triggered sudden loss of drive, while inverter faults killed EV mode without warning. Each recall means a trip to the dealer and a new round of reprogramming. For owners, it's a cycle of dashboard warnings, lost workdays, and mounting doubts about reliability. GMC Acadia families have been living with transmission roulette for years. The infamous wave plate failure, where a thin metal ring cracks inside the automatic transmission, can leave the SUV stuck without third, fifth, or reverse gear. Repairs average $3,200, but costs climb fast when internal debris damages pumps and valve bodies. Some dealers hold vehicles for weeks, waiting on parts or specialized technicians. The Acadia's track record has turned what should be a dependable family hauler into a gamble every time you shift into drive. Subaru Ascent, once a rising star among 3-row crossovers, has its own transmission nightmare. A hydraulic sensor defect allows the CVT chain to slip, especially under load. Owners report shuddering, hesitation, and, in worst cases, a complete loss of power on the highway. Subaru's recall covers nearly 200,000 vehicles, but even after software updates and sensor harness replacements, some Ascent drivers see the same warning lights reappear. For families counting on Subaru's reputation for reliability, it's a harsh reminder that new tech doesn't always mean fewer problems. These aren't rare flukes. They're the kinds of mechanical failures that can upend a family's budget or leave them stranded. Each recall, each repair bill, is a story of trust broken and time lost. When the vehicles built to carry America's families can't be counted on, the cost goes far beyond the shop floor. Luxury promises to shield you from breakdowns and bills. The numbers prove otherwise. Lincoln's Aviator, a $70,000 statement of American prestige, is now a regular in service bays across the country. Owners report dashboard software resets, coarse engine noise, and seat controls buried in glitchy touchscreens. Consumer Reports puts the Aviator's reliability at 56 out of 100, worse than some entry-level sedans. The story repeats at the top of the price ladder. Range Rover Sport, the badge of British sophistication, suffers breakdown rates 4 times higher than the industry average for vehicles under 3 years old. 1 in 10 faces fuel system failures each year. Owners lose more than 2 days of use waiting for repairs, and depreciation slices thousands off resale values before the first oil change. Chrysler's Pacifica Hybrid, a minivan pitched as the smart family upgrade, was recalled after 7 battery fires and 4 cases of smoke inhalation. Stellantis told families to stop charging and park outside, an admission that the car could ignite even while off. The recall covered over 24,000 vehicles, and the fix was a software patch that didn't stop the next fire. For parents who bought safety and peace of mind, the reality was a hazard in the driveway. Ford's Explorer, once the backbone of American suburbia, now faces recalls for powertrain control module failures that can kill the engine at speed. Owners describe sudden loss of power, 7 service visits in 2 months, and weeks without transportation. Even after software updates, some Explorers still stall on the highway. Genesis GV70, a newcomer with luxury ambitions, left one owner without a car for 2 months due to fuel pump failures. Loaners provided, but confidence gone. These aren't isolated glitches. They're the new cost of buying into luxury marketing. Premium badges no longer guarantee reliability. If anything, they hide the real odds. Service departments are overwhelmed, parts back orders stretch for weeks, and recalls keep coming. In this new era, a luxury logo is no protection against the math. When the breakdown comes, the bill lands in your lap, no matter what the brochure promised. Consumer Reports surveyed over 300,000 vehicle owners to compile the 2025 reliability rankings, exposing a 42% higher problem rate for electric vehicles and a 70% increase for plug-in hybrids. Across the 20 trouble areas, vehicles like the Blazer EV, Cadillac Lyriq, and Rivian scored as low as 5 out of 100, while established luxury brands like Range Rover and Pacifica suffered repeated hardware and fire issues. Despite detailed data, some automakers have not disclosed the root causes behind recurring software failures and mechanical breakdowns, leaving key questions about long-term durability unanswered. These findings show that high prices and new technology do not guarantee reliability. As of this report, owners face growing repair costs and safety recalls, documented in official NHTSA filings and Consumer Reports archives. The evidence is clear. The gap between marketing promises and real-world outcomes remains wide, and consumers must rely on independent data, not brand reputation, when trust is on the line.